So I realized, when you were telling me your whole journey, that you started off, in mechanical engineering, and then you moved to TCS. So let's first talk about this. So as a mechanical engineering graduate, you suddenly moving into Microsoft. How much was an effort for you to, really work on your technical skills?
Yeah, sure. So when I was in 11th grade, we had this C++ course, and I would definitely want to call out one of my great teachers. She taught us C++, and over there, the C++, it gave us, at least to me, it gave me the confidence that I can solve the questions, maybe not in the most efficient, but I can at least solve the problems. So that logic, that kind of logic that developed, that was in 11th grade that I got it. So when I moved to TCS, well, the good part about TCS is they have a really good training program. This training program was for 3 months. So over there, they taught us mostly in ASP.NET. And since ASP.NET is pretty much similar to C++, like C Sharp is pretty close to what C++ is, except the GC thing. This was, I wouldn't say an easy transformation for me, but it was somewhat manageable. And so even when I was in TCS, most of the times I was using whatever I had learned during that 11th grade in terms of logic. And whenever I was stuck at something else, then yeah, I would have to reach out to someone. There were lots of good people who were there for my help, and also then there were libraries and the books that you can refer to if you were stuck. So yeah, all in all, not I wouldn't say it was really hard or really easy, but it was manageable. But yeah, that sort of paved the way into trying out new things. So yeah, that was sort of that was good.
Okay, so let's finally talk about Amazon. How did you prepare for it? So, when you talk about your technical expertise and the technical interviews, as a person who's preparing for an Amazon or Facebook, Microsoft, whatever, these top league companies, what basics you would suggest them to prepare and be fully knowledgeable on?
Yeah. So the way I did it was maybe some people find it strange, but what I did was whenever I studied something. So initially, I wasn't into data structures and algorithms at all. So when I got this course, I started studying. One of the courses that helped me to grasp data structures and algorithms is a lot is not from Canada. It's an NPTEL HRD data structures and algorithms course that you can find on YouTube. It's really good. So what I did was I studied one data structure every day, and then I implemented it myself. And I didn't wanted to use any ID because I'll get to that point in a bit. Uh, so after I had studied some data structure, I already had I also had two other friends who were also interested in this stuff, but they were into master's courses and they didn't have these prerequisites, but they were really interested into these data structures and algorithms. So what we did was we used to have 2 days in a week where I would teach them and they would ask me questions. So that way, I would come to know if I'm missing something, and then I would go and study that again and then teach them again. So after some time, when we were all on the same page, we took turns studying. We took turns teaching each other, and yeah, this sort of became the norm during the university days. And after that, mostly what we did was we took books like Cracking the Coding Interview, and then on Geeks for Geeks, I was solving one question every day, just one question, and then over those 2 years, that turned out to be a lot of practice. But yeah, so I would say, well, initially You just have to go through those data structures, try to implement them, because that's how you know the inner workings of them. And then just be consistent. Do one or two questions every day, and then that should be enough for you. Even if you are just doing it for say 3 or 4 months, I think that goes and adds up to a lot. And then once you are in that mind frame, then you start seeing those data structures and patterns into the questions, and what data structures would you be using, or if you have to invent a new data structure. So yeah, that sort of thing that comes only from practice. Um, yeah.
Okay.
So the way they conduct the interviews is, so one so first part is they don't care about the language. They would ask you to choose the language that you want, but the language that you choose should be syntactically correct. So whatever code you're writing, you can't say that it's going to be pseudocode. If you're picking a language, it has to be syntactically correct, syntactically, grammatically, no compilation errors, all that stuff. Um, that's the reason I was doing the coding without an ID, because when you go into the interviews, they would ask you to write the code on a whiteboard. Um, so there are so the interviews is divided into three categories. So the first one is they would send you a coding challenge, which would usually consist of two questions, and those questions would mostly maybe on sorting, maybe strings, arrays, sometimes graph data structures. But all in all, you have to be prepared for every data structure. And then they would also, so you can't just copy paste the solution, because they would also ask you how you came to the solution and what is the time complexity. So you have to write that piece, explaining how you got to this answer, what the time complexity is, and explain and walk through the code. So that's the first part. If you clear that, then usually they have a phone interview, in which you would be talking to a person. They would give you one question, usually one question, but sometimes if you're done with that question, they might also ask you to design something like hoops, some object-oriented database design, something like that. But those questions would be short, and they would ask you to code on a shared notepad sort of thing. And you also have to write the test cases. That's a really important part, that you cover all of the test cases. Edge cases are the things that people miss. Like if you if they are sent if there is a question in which the input is string, so you have to assume what is your solution going to handle the emptiness of the string, or some other things. So mostly they're when they ask you to write the test cases, what they are basically asking is, are you considering the edge cases as well?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the phone interview. Once you clear that, then there could be 4 or 5 rounds of on-site interviews. So in those 4 or 5 rounds, um, 3 of them would be coding interviews. So mostly data structures, algorithms, all that sort of stuff. One of the interview would be a system design. So they would ask you to design a system based on some assumption, and that would be a very open-ended discussion. They could just ask you, oh, just go and design Instagram. How do you do that? So most of the times you would be driving that interview. System design is something that there is no right or wrong answer to, and they can keep pushing you towards they can keep pushing you towards scalability or efficiency or durability. So you have to see what the important part is for the type of design that they are asking. Sometimes durability is important, sometimes availability is important, sometimes they just want to scale it, sometimes security. So based on what the requirement is, you might have to tweak your solution. And then there's going to be, at least this is specific to Amazon, that they have one behavioral round,
Exactly.
which is
Yep.
yeah, which is on leadership principles. So Amazon is really obsessed about their leadership principles. And they would give you situations like, oh, what is the most challenging thing that you did, and how did you do it? So in those sort of questions, I usually tend to follow STAR method, which is situation, task, action, result. So what was the situation? What was the task? What did you do? And what was the result? So the result is really important here. And in the result, you have to show how you benefited the customer. That's their end goal, because they really care about their customers. Everything starts and stops with the customer, at Amazon, at least. Yeah. So yeah, all in all, lots of coding, um, and then system design and behavioral round. In all of these interviews, they also have a concept called bar raiser, um, but you wouldn't know which one of them is the bar raiser, and he's the tiebreaker. So if all of them say yes and he says no, then it's a no. But yeah, so the job of this person is that they have to get the candidate that they are hiring should be better than the candidates they already have at Amazon. So he can't be at the same quality. He should be better. That's their goal. But yeah, you wouldn't know which one of them is the bar raiser. That's the downside. But yeah, that's how their interview process is.